Hi, I'm Flora. I'm 18 years old, and 3 months ago, I thought I had my entire future mapped out. I was the girl who color coded her study schedules, who spent 4 years maintaining a perfect GPA, who sacrificed weekend parties to volunteer at the local animal shelter because it would look good on college applications. I was that girl who believed that hard work and family support would guarantee success. I was so naive. You know that feeling when everything you thought you knew about your life crumbles in a single moment? When the people you trust most in the world reveal they've been living a lie? That's exactly what happened to me on a Tuesday evening in March, when I accidentally discovered that my parents had been playing favorites for years, and I wasn't the favorite. Let me start from the beginning. Growing up, my sister Lily and I couldn't have been more different. She was 3 years older, effortlessly beautiful, and had that natural charm that made teachers excuse her late assignments and boys follow her around like lost puppies. I was the studious one, the responsible one, the one who cleaned up her messes and never complained when she borrowed my clothes without asking. My parents always said they were proud of both of us, but in different ways. Flora is our little scholar, Mom would say, ruffling my hair, and Lily is our free spirit. It seemed fair enough at the time. Different kids, different strengths, equal love. For 4 years of high school, every conversation about my future included the same reassuring promise from both my parents. Don't worry about college costs, sweetheart. We've been saving since you were little. Just focus on getting into the best school you can, and we'll handle the rest. Those words were my safety net. They allowed me to dream big, to apply to prestigious universities without constantly calculating tuition costs. They gave me the courage to turn down a full scholarship to our local community college because I knew my parents had my back. Stanford accepted me. Stanford! With my 4.0 GPA, my SAT scores, and my volunteer work, I had made it into one of the most competitive universities in the country. The acceptance letter arrived on a Thursday, and I literally screamed with joy in our kitchen. Mom cried happy tears, Dad lifted me off my feet in the biggest bear hug of my life, and for a moment, everything felt perfect. "We're so proud of you, Flora," Dad said, his voice thick with emotion. "This is exactly what we saved for." The financial aid letter came a week later. Even with some scholarships, we were looking at $40,000 per year. It was a huge amount, but my parents didn't even flinch. "We'll make it work," Mom said confidently. "We've been planning for this moment since you were born." I should have asked more questions. I should have wondered why Lily, who was now 21 and had been bouncing between part-time jobs and community college classes for 3 years, never seemed stressed about money. I should have noticed the expensive clothes she kept buying, the new car Dad helped her purchase last year, the way she casually mentioned wanting to study abroad someday without worrying about costs. But I trusted my parents completely. Why wouldn't I? The first hint that something was wrong came during spring break of my senior year. I was home, excitedly planning my dorm room and researching freshman courses, when I overheard a phone conversation between my parents. I wasn't trying to eavesdrop. I was just walking past their bedroom when I heard my name. "Flora doesn't know about the Europe Fund," Dad was saying in a low voice. "If she finds out we're using her college money for Lily's year abroad." My blood turned to ice. I pressed myself against the wall, straining to hear more. "It's not her college money," Mom replied, but she sounded defensive. "It's our money, and we can spend it how we choose. Besides, Lily needs this experience more than Flora needs an expensive university. Flora is smart enough to succeed anywhere." The conversation continued, but I couldn't process the words anymore. Everything was spinning. The college fund they'd promised me, the security I'd counted on for 4 years, apparently didn't exist. Or worse, it existed, but they were planning to spend it on my sister instead. I somehow made it back to my room without making a sound, but inside, I was screaming. How could they do this to me? How could they promise me one thing while planning something completely different behind my back? That night, I barely slept. I kept replaying every conversation about college, every reassurance they'd given me, every time they'd told me to dream big because they had it covered, had it all been lies? The next morning at breakfast, I watched my parents carefully. They seemed completely normal, asking about my plans for the day, discussing dinner options, acting like they weren't hiding a secret that could destroy my future. The casual way they were deceiving me was almost worse than the deception itself. I wanted to confront them immediately, but something held me back. Maybe it was the small hope that I had misunderstood what I had heard. Maybe it was the fear that confronting them would make it all real. Or maybe I just needed time to figure out how to handle the biggest betrayal of my life. But I knew I couldn't let this go. I had to find out the truth, even if it destroyed everything I thought I knew about my family. And that's when my real education began. Not in preparation for college, but in learning exactly how much my parents valued their two daughters. The answer would change everything.
The next few days were torture. I found myself analyzing every interaction with my parents, looking for signs of guilt or hints about their real plans. They seemed so normal, so loving, that I started questioning what I'd heard. Maybe I'd misunderstood. Maybe there was a reasonable explanation. But then Lily came home for the weekend, and everything became crystal clear. She bounced into the kitchen on Friday evening, practically glowing with excitement. "Guess what?" she announced, not waiting for an answer. "I got into the Florence program, 6 months in Italy studying art and culture. Can you believe it?" My parents' faces lit up with pride, and Mom immediately started gushing about how wonderful the experience would be. I sat there feeling like I was watching a movie about someone else's family. "That's amazing, Lily," I managed to say, though my voice sounded strange even to my own ears. "How are you planning to pay for it?" The question hung in the air for a moment too long. Lily glanced at our parents, and I saw a look pass between them, the kind of look that confirmed my worst fears. "Oh, Mom and Dad are helping out. They're so supportive of my dreams." My dreams? What about my dreams? I wanted to scream, but instead I excused myself and went to my room. I needed to know exactly what was happening, and I needed proof. That's when I made a decision that would change everything. I was going to find out the truth about our family's finances, even if it meant snooping where I shouldn't. The opportunity came the next morning when my parents went grocery shopping together. Lily was still asleep. She never got up before noon on weekends, so I had the house to myself. My heart was pounding as I crept into my parents' home office. They'd always been trusting with me, never locking drawers or hiding important documents. Why would they? I'd never given them a reason not to trust me. The irony wasn't lost on me that I was violating their trust to find out how they'd violated mine. I started with the filing cabinet where they kept financial documents. Bank statements, investment accounts, insurance papers. It was all organized with the same careful attention to detail that I'd inherited from them. As I flipped through folders, I kept telling myself I'd find evidence that I'd been wrong, that the college fund was safe and Lily's Europe program was being funded some other way. But then I found the folder labeled Education Funds. My hands were shaking as I opened it. Inside were documents dating back years, statements from a 529 college savings plan that had been set up when I was 3 years old. The account had grown steadily, funded by regular contributions from my parents and generous gifts from my grandparents every birthday and Christmas. But as I looked at the recent statements, my heart sank. Over the past 6 months, there had been a series of large withdrawals. The account that should have held enough to cover my first 2 years at Stanford was nearly empty. Attached to the most recent statement was a handwritten note in my mother's familiar script. Lily's Florence program deposit, $8,000. Remaining for apartment and living expenses, $15,000. They had taken my college fund, money that had been saved specifically for my education, and given it to Lily for a semester abroad program that wasn't even part of a degree she was seriously pursuing. I sat on the floor of their office, surrounded by the evidence of their betrayal, and cried harder than I had since I was a child. This wasn't just about money. It was about trust, about priorities, about feeling like I mattered less than my sister in my own family. But as I cried, anger began to build alongside the hurt. I had worked so hard for this opportunity. I had sacrificed social activities, stressed over every grade, volunteered countless hours, all because I believed my parents they said they wanted me to succeed. And they had lied to me. For months, they had looked me in the eye and promised support they had no intention of giving. I put everything back exactly as I'd found it and went to my room to think. What were my options? I could confront them immediately, but what would that accomplish? They had already spent the money. I could try to guilt them into changing course, but that would put Lily in an impossible position and probably destroy our family relationships. Or I could find another way. That afternoon, while Lily gushed about Italian cuisine and Renaissance art, I quietly researched my alternatives. Student loans would cover tuition, but the debt would be crushing. I could defer Stanford for a year and work full-time, but there was no guarantee my acceptance would be honored the following year. I could accept the community college scholarship I'd turned down, but the deadline had passed. Every option felt like giving up on the future I'd worked so hard to build. Sunday dinner was particularly painful. My parents asked about my Stanford preparations, and I watched them pretend to be excited while knowing they had no intention of helping me get there. Lily talked about her Italy plans, and I noticed how my parents hung on every word, asking detailed questions and offering enthusiastic encouragement. When was the last time they'd shown that level of interest in my academic achievements? "Flora, you've been quiet tonight," Dad observed. "Everything okay, sweetheart?" The concern in his voice almost broke me. How could he sound so caring while actively sabotaging my future? "I'm fine," I lied. "Just tired." But I wasn't fine, and I wasn't going to pretend everything was okay much longer. I had a decision to make about how to handle this situation, and it was becoming clear that being the good daughter who never caused problems wasn't serving me well. That night, I made a plan. I would give my parents one chance to tell me the truth voluntarily. I would ask direct questions about my college fund and see if they would come clean. If they continued to lie to me, I would have to take more drastic action. I fell asleep that night not knowing that by the end of the week, our family would be in complete upheaval, and I would learn that my parents' betrayal was even deeper than I had imagined.
Monday morning, I decided to test the waters. At breakfast, I casually mentioned that Stanford had sent information about payment deadlines. "The first tuition payment is due in June," I said, watching my parents' faces carefully. "Should I set up the payment plan, or do you want to handle it directly from the college fund?" Mom's coffee cup paused halfway to her lips, and Dad suddenly became very interested in his newspaper. The silence stretched just long enough to confirm what I already knew. "We should probably sit down and go over the financial details soon," Dad said finally, not meeting my eyes. "There are some things we need to discuss." Some things we need to discuss. After 18 years of planning, after 4 years of promises, my college fund had become some things we need to discuss. "What kind of things?" I pressed, keeping my voice steady despite the fury building inside me. "Well," Mom interjected, shooting Dad a warning look, "college costs have gone up so much, we might need to explore some alternative funding options." Alternative funding options? They couldn't even say the words student loans or you're on your own.
I nodded and smiled, playing the part of the trusting daughter. Of course, we should definitely talk soon. But I had no intention of waiting for them to find the courage to tell me the truth. I had already started investigating exactly how much they'd spent on Lily over the years, and what I was discovering made my stomach turn. That afternoon, while my parents were at work, I did more digging in their financial records. What I found painted a picture of systematic favoritism that went back years. Lily's car, the one Dad had helped her buy, had actually been purchased entirely with money from what should have been my college fund. The down payment, the monthly payments, even the insurance premiums were coming from the account that was supposed to secure my future. Her community college tuition, which I'd assumed she was paying herself with her part-time job, was also being covered by my education fund. Not only that, but they were paying for her expensive art supplies, her clothes, even her social activities. Meanwhile, I had been working part-time at the local bookstore since I was 16, saving every penny for college expenses because I wanted to contribute to my education. My parents had praised my work ethic and independence, never mentioning that my sister was getting a free ride funded by money that was supposed to be mine. The more I uncovered, the angrier I became. This wasn't just about college, it was about years of lies and unfair treatment. Wednesday evening, I decided to have a conversation with Lily. Maybe she didn't know where the money for her expenses was coming from. Maybe she would be as shocked as I was to learn the truth. I was so naive. I found her in her room browsing Italian fashion websites on the laptop our parents had bought her for Christmas. The same Christmas when they'd told me my gift budget needed to be reasonable because times were tight. "Lily, can we talk?" She looked up with mild curiosity. "Sure, what's up?" I sat on her bed, trying to figure out how to approach the subject. "I've been thinking about college costs lately, and I'm wondering, do you know how Mom and Dad are planning to pay for my Stanford tuition?" Something flickered in her expression. Guilt, maybe, but she quickly recovered. "I'm sure they have it figured out. They've been saving for years, right?" "Right," I said carefully. "That's what they always said, but I'm just wondering if you know anything about the college fund they set up for me." Lily's face went pale, and I knew immediately that she knew exactly what I was talking about. "Flora," she started, then stopped. She looked genuinely uncomfortable, which gave me hope that maybe she wasn't as complicit as I had feared. "Flora, please, I need to know the truth." She was quiet for a long moment, and when she finally spoke, her voice was barely above a whisper. "They told you didn't know." "Know what?" "About the money. About how they've been redirecting things." She couldn't look at me. "Flora, I swear I didn't ask for it, but when they offered to pay for my school and my car and everything else, I just, I didn't think about where it was coming from." "But you knew it was coming from my college fund?" She nodded miserably. "Not at first, but yeah, for the last year or so, I've known. Mom told me when I asked about the Italy program, she said they were just reallocating resources and that you were smart enough to figure out alternatives." Reallocating resources. My entire future had been reallocated to fund my sister's whims. "Why didn't you tell me?" I asked, though part of me already knew the answer. "Because I was scared you'd hate me, and because—" She finally looked at me, tears in her eyes. "Because I didn't want to give it back. Does that make me a terrible person?" I stared at my sister, this person I'd looked up to my entire life, who I defended and supported and loved unconditionally, and realized that she had been complicit in destroying my future because it was convenient for her. "I don't know," I said honestly, "but it makes me feel pretty terrible." I left her room and went to mine, where I sat staring at my Stanford acceptance letter. Everything I'd worked for was slipping away, and the people who were supposed to love and support me were the ones taking it from me. But I wasn't going to give up without a fight. Thursday morning, I made a decision that would have shocked the old Flora, the good daughter who never caused problems. I was going to confront my parents directly, and I was going to demand answers. Not just about the money, but about the years of lies, the favoritism, the way they'd prioritized Lily's happiness over my future. I was going to tell them exactly how their choices had affected me, and I was going to demand that they find a way to make it right. I had no idea that when I finally confronted them that evening, I would discover that their betrayal was even more calculated than I had imagined, and that this conversation would lead to the most explosive family fight of our lives.
That Thursday evening, I asked my parents to sit down with me in the living room. My hands were shaking, but my resolve was firm. I'd spent 3 days gathering evidence and building courage, and I wasn't going to back down now. We need to talk about my college fund, I said, my voice steadier than I felt. The look that passed between my parents told me everything I needed to know. They'd been dreading this conversation, which meant they knew exactly how wrong their actions were. Flora, sweetheart, Mom started in her most soothing voice, let's discuss your options. No, I interrupted, and the firmness in my own voice surprised me. I don't want to discuss my options. I want to discuss what happened to the money that was saved specifically for my education. Dad cleared his throat. Honey, college costs have increased so much over the years, and we've had some unexpected expenses. Like Lily's car, and her tuition, and her trip to Italy. I pulled out the bank statements I'd photocopied. I know about the withdrawals, Dad. I know you've been using my college fund to pay for everything Lily wants. The silence that followed was deafening. Mom's face went white, and Dad looked like he'd been caught stealing, which I suppose he had been. Flora, you weren't supposed to see those documents. You're right. I wasn't supposed to know that you've been lying to me for months while promising to support my education. We haven't been lying, Dad said, though he couldn't look me in the eye. We've been trying to figure out the best way to handle a difficult situation. A difficult situation? I stood up, anger finally overriding my need to be the perfect daughter. The only difficult thing about this situation is that you promised me one thing and did another. You told me for 4 years to focus on getting into the best school possible because you had it covered. You watched me turn down a full scholarship because I trusted you. And all that time you were planning to give my college money to Lily instead? It's not that simple, Mom protested. Lily needed support too. She was struggling, and this opportunity in Italy is worth more than my entire future, apparently. Do you have any idea what you've done to me? I have 6 weeks to figure out how to pay for Stanford or I lose my spot. 6 weeks to come up with $40,000 because you decided Lily's art classes were more important than my education. That's when Lily appeared in the doorway. She'd obviously been listening to the entire conversation. Flora, I'm sorry, she said, tears streaming down her face. I didn't know it would hurt you this much. I turned to look at my sister, and all the pain and betrayal of the past week flooded out of me. You didn't know it would hurt me? Lily, that money was saved for 17 years. Grandma and Grandpa put money into that account every birthday and Christmas, specifically for my college education. And you let Mom and Dad give it to you for a semester abroad program that you probably won't even complete? That's not fair, Lily shot back, her tears turning to anger. I work hard too. I deserve opportunities just like you do. Then you should have earned them yourself instead of stealing mine. Girls, please, Dad interjected. But I wasn't done. And you? I turned back to my parents. You're the worst of all. At least Lily is just selfish.
But you're supposed to be the adults. You're supposed to treat your children fairly. Instead, you've been systematically favoring one daughter over the other for years. We love you both equally, Mom said, but her voice lacked conviction. No, you don't. You love Lily more, and you've proven it with your actions. You've spent years making excuses for her while expecting perfection for me. You funded her lifestyle while I worked part-time jobs. You've supported her dreams while destroying mine. I was crying now. 18 years of being the easy child finally catching up to me. And the worst part is that you all knew this was wrong. You knew it was wrong, or you wouldn't have hidden it from me. You would have been honest from the beginning instead of lying to my face for months. We were trying to protect you, Dad said weakly. Protect me from what? The truth? The reality that my own family values me less than they value my sister? That's not true, Mom whispered. Then prove it, I said, wiping my tears. Give me back my college fund. Tell Lily she needs to find another way to pay for Italy. Show me that my education actually matters to you. The silence that followed told me everything I needed to know. They weren't going to choose me. Even now, faced with the evidence of how much they'd hurt me, they weren't going to prioritize my future over Lily's wants. We can't do that, Mom said finally. Lily's already paid the deposit. She's been accepted to the program. We can't just cancel her opportunity. But you can cancel mine? It's different, Dad said. You have other options. You can take out loans, or go to a state school, or... I can adapt, right? Because I'm the strong one, the responsible one, the one who can handle disappointment. The bitterness in my voice shocked even me. Well, here's something you might not have considered. I'm done adapting to your failures as parents. I stood up and headed toward the stairs, but Mom called after me. Flora, where are you going? We need to work this out as a family. I turned back to look at them. My parents sitting on the couch, guilty and defensive, my sister hovering in the doorway, crying crocodile tears. We're not a family, I said quietly. Families don't lie to each other. Families don't steal from each other. Families don't sacrifice one child's future for another child's convenience. Don't be so dramatic, Lily. It's just college. There are other schools. And that's when I completely lost it. Just college? Just college? I screamed. This isn't just about school, Lily. This is about the fact that our parents think so little of me that they can promise me something for 4 years and then give it to you without even telling me. This is about the fact that you think so little of me that you can accept stolen money and call it just college when I confront you about it. I was sobbing now, but I kept going. I have worked my butt off for 4 years. I maintained a 4.0 GPA while working part-time. I volunteered, I led clubs, I wrote essays, I stressed over every test and assignment because I thought it mattered. I thought my parents were proud of me. I thought they wanted me to succeed. We are proud of you, Dad said, but I cut him off. No, you're not. You're proud of the idea of me. You like having a daughter that makes you look good, who never causes problems, who cleans up everyone else's messes. But when it came time to actually support my dreams with more than just words, you chose Lily instead. The room was completely silent except for the sound of my crying. I'm done, I said finally. I'm done being the good daughter who accepts whatever scraps you throw my way. I'm done pretending that this family treats me fairly. And I'm done pretending that any of you actually care about my future. I started up the stairs, but Lily called after me. Flora, wait. Maybe we can work something out. Maybe I can postpone Italy for a year. I turned around slowly. Don't. Don't you dare try to make yourself feel better by offering something you don't actually want to do. You've made your choice, and so have they. Now, I get to make mine. And with that, I went to my room and began planning the biggest decision of my life, one that would change our family forever.
I spent that night researching every possible alternative to my parents' support, and by morning, I had made a decision that would have been unthinkable to me a week earlier. I was going to emancipate myself financially and emotionally from my family. The next morning, I came downstairs with a plan and a new sense of determination. My parents were at the kitchen table, looking like they hadn't slept much either. Good. I've made some decisions, I announced, pulling out a folder I'd prepared. Flora, about last night, Mom started, but I held up my hand. I'm not interested in apologies or excuses. I'm interested in moving forward, and I'm going to do it without your help. I sat down and opened my folder. I spent the night researching my options, and here's what I've decided. I'm going to defer Stanford for 1 year. I'm going to work full-time and take out student loans to cover what I can't save. I'm also going to file my financial aid applications as an independent student so your income doesn't affect my eligibility for grants. Honey, you don't need to do all that, Dad said. We can figure something out. No, we can't. Because figuring something out would require you to prioritize my education, and you've already proven that you won't do that. I pulled out the first document. This is a deferral request for Stanford. I'm sending it today. Then the second document. This is an application for a full-time position at the accounting firm where I've been interning. They've already offered me the job. And the third. This is information about student financial aid for independent students. It turns out that if I can prove I'm financially independent from you, I qualify for significantly more aid. My parents stared at the papers like they were written in a foreign language. Flora, you're being hasty, Mom said. This will put you a year behind your peers. No, this will put me a year behind where I would have been if my parents had kept their promises. But it will also put me in a position where I never have to depend on people who don't value me. We do value you, Dad protested. Then why didn't you value me enough to keep the money that was saved from my education? Why didn't you value me enough to be honest with me? Why didn't you value me enough to choose my future over Lily's wants? They had no answer for that. Lily appeared in the doorway then, and I could see she'd been crying. Flora, I've been thinking all night. I don't want to go to Italy if it means you can't go to Stanford. I looked at my sister, really looked at her, and for a moment I saw something I hadn't expected. Genuine remorse. Lily, do you mean that? Or are you just saying it because you feel guilty? I mean it, she said, sitting down across from me. I was selfish. I knew the money was supposed to be for your college, but I let myself believe it was okay because Mom and Dad offered it. But it wasn't okay. It was your money, and I took it from you. For the first time in days, I felt a tiny spark of hope. Maybe my family could be salvaged after all. But then Dad spoke up. Lily, sweetheart, you don't need to give up your opportunity. We can find another way to help Flora. And just like that, my hope died. No, I said firmly. Don't you see? You're doing it again. Even now, when Lily is trying to do the right thing, you're encouraging her to prioritize herself over me. I stood up and gathered my papers. This is exactly why I need to be independent, because even when faced with the consequences of your choices, you're still not willing to choose me. Flora, wait, Mom pleaded. Let's all sit down and work out a solution together. There is no solution that you are willing to accept. The only fair solution is for Lily to give up Italy and for my college fund to be restored. But you'll never ask her to make that sacrifice, will you? The silence was my answer. That's what I thought. I headed toward the door, but turned back one more time. For what it's worth, I don't hate any of you. I'm disappointed and hurt and angry, but I don't hate you. I just finally understand who you are,
and what my place is in this family. What's that supposed to mean? Mom asked. It means I'm the insurance policy. I'm the child you invest the least in because you know I'll find a way to survive anyway. Lily gets your active support because she needs it. I get your expectations because I can handle them. I paused at the doorway. Well, I'm done handling things for all of you. From now on, I'm going to invest in myself the way you should have invested in me. The next few weeks were the hardest of my life, but also the most empowering. I sent my deferral request to Stanford, started my full-time job, and began the process of establishing financial independence. It wasn't easy, but every small step forward felt like reclaiming control over my own life. My parents tried several times to work things out, but their solutions always involved me accepting less than I deserved. They offered to help with part of my college costs, but wanted to keep funding Lily's Italy trip. They suggested I consider a less expensive school, but saw no reason why Lily shouldn't pursue her dreams abroad. 3 months later, as I write this story, Lily is preparing for her semester in Italy, funded by money that was supposed to be mine. My parents have convinced themselves that they're being fair by helping both daughters pursue their dreams. And I'm working 50 hours a week while studying for my SATs again, because I've decided to reapply to colleges with my new independent status. It's been the most difficult and painful experience of my life, but it's also been the most clarifying. I've learned that I can't control other people's choices, but I can control my response to them. I've learned that family love isn't always unconditional or fair, and I've learned that sometimes the people who claim to want the best for you are the ones standing in the way of your success. Most importantly, I've learned that I'm stronger than I ever imagined. The girl who color-coded her study schedules and never caused problems has become a woman who stands up for herself and fights for her dreams, even when that fight is against the people she loves most. My parents think I'm being stubborn and dramatic. Lily thinks I'm being unforgiving. But I know I'm being true to myself for the first time in my life. Next fall, I'll be starting college as a 19-year-old freshman who paid her own way. I'll be older than my classmates, I'll have more debt than I hoped for, and I'll be doing it all without my family's support. But I'm also going to be doing it with the knowledge that I earned every single opportunity myself. And honestly, that feels better than any college fund ever could. So, here's my question for you. Have you ever had to choose between family loyalty and standing up for yourself? Have you ever discovered that the people you trusted most were the ones who believed in you the least? I'd love to hear your stories in the comments below. Sometimes the hardest lessons come from the people closest to us, but those lessons can also be the most valuable. And if you're dealing with your own family drama or college stress, remember this: you are stronger than you think, and you deserve to have people in your life who support your dreams, not sabotage them. If this story resonated with you, please subscribe for more real family stories and life lessons. Sometimes the most powerful education happens outside the classroom. Thanks for listening to my story. Remember, your dreams are valid, your feelings are legitimate, and you have the power to create the future you deserve, even when the people who should be helping you are the ones holding you back. You've got this. I believe in you, even if the people around you don't always show it.